Crossing the Atlantic is easier than crossing the River Musi. This startling statement came to me as I sat in an informal discussion with a couple of academicians and a couple of social workers. Now, the first thing that I felt after I heard this amazing, startling, and a sort of demeaning kind of a statement, the feeling that I had when I heard this was a bit of anger, a bit of indignation, moving on to a mellow sorrow and a sadness. Having said that, I work in the Old City with the women of Old City over the past 16 years. The Musi River is a river which is separating very, very clearly the Old City from the New City. The New City, with its glistening malls, the multiplexes, the multitude of jobs which are coming up, employment opportunities, and the Old City part of it, the has-been part, the history of Hyderabad, the culture of Hyderabad, and that is where it still exists in its past glory. If you see the Musi River in the previous days, which was in the times of the Nizam, in the times of the Quli Qutub Shah, the river was flowing. There was education happening over there. There was a lot of agriculture. There was trade which was flourishing. And during those times, we also saw the flourishing of the women in the Old City. There were different roles that they were occupying. In those times, the history says that the river Musi actually originates from the mighty Krishna River, which is a part of Viqarabad. It flows down from there. And in those times, the river was abundant. It had the power within. It was resilient. It was flowing. It was a life giver. And from there on, what if I told you the story of the river Musi is similar to that of a woman? The story of a woman. The woman who lives near the river Musi, which is a woman who is like me. After a while, we have seen in the past few years that the river has changed. It has totally transformed itself. There is stagnation. There is industry pollution coming in. There is a lot of waste which is over there. As I travel every day to my workplace, I cross the river Musi, and mind you, it's not the Atlantic. I cross the river Musi, and from there on, what I see across one of the bridges down at the riverbed is a serpentine lines of clothes coming from the hospital which have been washed over there. I see on the other bank of the river, I see the whole city's dump yard has been put up over there. The entire place has been transformed. What was once before is no longer the same Musi. The river Musi tells us tales. The river Musi carries stories of culture, of history, of enormous abundance which was there in the days of the year. River Musi also talks about culture. As Quli Qutub Shah set up the city, the river Musi was the center point of the city. It was around it that the famous architectural marvels came up. If you see on one side, the Osmania Hospital has come up. On the other side, you have the High Court. Then you have the City College. The City College is where my father studied. The river Musi also tells us stories of cultural confluence, of the cultures coming together. We have the famous story of Bhagmati and Quli Qutub Shah and how their love prospered and flourished. Bhagmati and Quli Qutub Shah. Quli Qutub Shah is known to have crossed the river Musi when it was in spate, when it was flooding. And he had to go and meet his lover, Bhagmati, who was down on the other side of the river near the Golconda. And this is where the story goes. And the beautiful confluence of cultures and the Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb, which was talked about. So this is about the river Musi. What I feel when I see the Musi on a daily basis is a sense of decay, a sense of stagnation, a sense of things going wrong, a sense of women being stagnant and stagnated and staying where they have been staying. I remember in the times of being a third, fourth generation Hyderabadi, I remember that in those days, my grandmother, my mother used to be heavy readers. They used to read a lot of articles of books. There was a lot of literature, magazines available. I remember both of them sitting and reading some extremely progressive books called the magazines called the Shama and the Bano. The Shama spoke a lot about films. Bano spoke about women's stories in the Old City. There's a lot of literature which was written in those days. And I'm not talking of many, many decades back. This was probably just before partition and after partition. The magazines were a safe space for women to write. In those days, women wrote, they read, they observed, they learned. Those were the women of Old City. They wrote about the Havelis of Old City. They wrote about the Devaris of Old City. They wrote about how they tried to educate themselves. They wrote about progressive things happening around the world globally, not just in the Havelis or in outside the Havelis, but around the world. This was the culture which was existing. And I remember clearly looking at those magazines and thinking why my mom and my grandmom have been always waiting for these magazines to come. It was culture. It was about learning. What has happened since then? Things have changed. Things have changed within our community. As I stand here today, I stand in my own particular identity. I stand with a gender identity. I stand with my cultural identity. I stand with my language identity. The identity, which is so, so important for a woman. As many of you are sitting over here, I notice there's a lot of young women over there. Do we actually wonder where our identity is? Is it in our names? Is it in our culture? Is it in our language? Where is the identity of the women? Where is the agency of the women? As I was a growing up child, I was considered to be the most obnoxious kid in the family. Extremely stubborn, extremely obstinate, and I just like to create trouble around. Just trouble. And trouble not of the good kind, not of the naughty kind, but extremely troublesome kid. If I were my mom today, I would probably put a case of mental harassment on myself. Honestly. Honestly, I gave so much trouble to my parents, and especially to my poor mother. It reached a stage where my obstinacy and stubbornness was thought that it was a disease, it was a disorder. And for all the mental trauma my mom was going through, she said that I'm going to take you to a doc. She took me to a homeopath. I was given some medication over there. Obviously, it did not work. From there on, she decided she would take me to a Pir Baba, a saintly godman. I was all of 6 years old. And there, I sit there. She takes me to him. And this, again, is on the other side of the river. She takes me there, I'm sitting there. It is the evening time. There is like clouds, hazy clouds of oud and agar and agarbattis and the beautiful incense of all of it coming into place. And I'm sitting there wondering what's going to be happening next. I see in the corner of the room, there is a very saintly looking man. Pristine white kurta pajama, long white flowing beard, a very beautiful skull cap on his head. And he looks at me. And I had been told by my mother not to be looking at him in the eye. And there she is, pinching me on the side to look down, to look down, to look down. From there on, my mother started a lament about me to the sheikh. And he had only one word to say. After listening to the entire thing, he said, do one thing. Iska naam badal do. I mean, how does it even work? How does it even work? Changing the name? I was all of 6 years old, and here in my 6-year-old mind, in my wisdom, I'm thinking that this gentleman is Allah because of the way he looked. I'm thinking, okay, is he God? What is he going to do with me? What is going to happen to me next? And this is what is given. Fortunately for me, and unfortunately for the world, my name stayed where it was. I say unfortunately for the world because I take on my struggles today. I continue my struggles. I am here to change the narrative. I look at busting to stereotypes. I look at culture. How do you absorb cultures? I look at people who are talking about women empowerment but who do not have a single woman on the board. I look at stories of the other world, the other side of the river, and I'm thinking of women who are talking about, I see panel discussions, I'm a part of it. They're talking about hitting the glass ceiling. And I'm wondering, where is the ceiling for my women? Where is it? They're still on the riverbed. And that too a riverbed which has been stagnated. Where is the growth in the women? What have we done to get in the growth in the women? Identities, so important. As a woman establishes her identity, it could be a professional identity, it could be a cultural identity, any kind of an identity. As a woman identifies with her identity, she grows. She grows. She has that power within her. She has that potential within her. She's a life giver. She's a nurturer. She takes the entire clan forward. That is the identity of the woman. Thank you. Across our classes at Safa, as we do workshops with the women, I remember in the early days, I used to sit and do the workshops myself. And we used to have these workshops in the first class where we talked to them about their names and what it meant. And like most of the Muslim women, also the non-Muslim women, we give them names like Lakshmi, Durga, we have Fatima, Aisha. These are role models in the community. These are women who were bold. These are women who were role models in the community. And we give them names like that. And once when I was talking to them about it, and I asked one of the girls, her name was Aisha, I said, do you know what your name means? And she had nothing but tears in her eyes. She said, I don't know when I was called Aisha last. I'm either called Khala, I'm called Appa, I'm called Didi, I'm called probably sometimes, most of the times by my partner, I'm just called by abuse. Where is the identity of the woman? How does she work around it? These are things that we need to be thinking of on the other side of the river, and that is what we have been working on. When women start working, economies lift, trade prospers, the GDP of the country goes up. There is a lot of talk these days on women in the workforce participation. At Safa, we have been trying to lift the women and lift the economy of the country. Country is still a far cry for us. We are still looking at the homes that they are living in. We are still looking at how they can uplift their families out of it. And a wonderful story comes to my mind of Sana. Sana is a 32-year-old with 4 children, and before the COVID days, she used to run a beautiful artificial jewelry business. And she was making this jewelry pre-COVID times, doing reasonably good business. COVID struck, and as the city was struggling for a breath, Sana was faced with this dilemma of how do I feed my children? 1 day went by, 2 days went by, 3 days went by, there was barely any food in the home. And what she did was, on the 3rd day, she asked her husband to get home some chicken. He got in the chicken and she thought she's going to mix something into it and give it to the entire family to eat. And there, in the moment when she was putting in that foul-smelling liquid in the chicken curry, she looked at her husband. Both of them looked at each other. 4 children came running inside the kitchen and they said, oh, it smells good. We want to be tasting it today. We want to be eating it today. Are we going to get a full meal today? Husband and wife looked at each other, tears in their eyes, and they took a decision that would change the course of the family. They picked up the entire vessel and they threw it down the drain. That was a moment of victory for Sana. That's when she decided that she is going to take care of the family. She is going to be the wage earner. She is going to get in livelihoods. And at that point, there's a knock at the door and a Safa volunteer walks in and says, would you like to build back your business? And that's where her story begins. Right now, she's selling at most of the corporates. She makes a good 25,000 rupees a month. The last time I met her, I said, Sana, paise ka kya kiye? And all she said was, my children were standing outside the classroom in the past 2 months because I had not paid the fees. They were not allowed to write the unit test also. And what I did was I have paid the fees. Can you imagine the journey from outside of the classroom to inside of the classroom is a long journey. We work with hundreds such women, believe me. And every time we do our work, we get a person into the workforce, we get her to attach to a livelihood, it's a victory story for us. There are times when we pick professions, there are times when professions pick us. That is our calling. That has been the moment of serendipity for me. And within the power and the potential is this enormous purpose which engulfs the entire system that I have. Every day is a struggle for us. Every day is a struggle for the women who are living with us. And the stories that we live to tell are how the river prospered. I urge every one of you today to think about just crossing that river. Start with that one step. And the river is not even wide enough these days. There are many bridges you can find it. But before you actually cross that river, please remember that there are barriers within you that you need to break up. There are barriers of stereotypes. There are barriers of biases that we have built. They are barriers of preconceived notions about a particular culture, a particular society. The people who look like me. Once you break down those barriers that you have within yourself, you move outside. You will find that it is freeing. The world is freeing for you. An enormous spirit of freedom comes into you. Because you have broken down a few barriers. And these are probably the ones which you have not built, which the society has built for you, which probably your parents built for you. But we as educated people look at what are we building within ourselves. We need to find places where we can go to and where we find cultures mixing. I request all of you today to have a look at Old City, not with the eyes of biryani achhi milti, language achhi rehti, how, nakko, all these are things which are stereotypes of Hyderabad, or the language of Bengan ke bata mat karo. In the words of Amitabh Bachchan, in his baritone voice, which I cannot really imitate, I would say, कुछ वक्त तो गुजारो ओल्ड सिटी में. Thank you very much.